back. And if you're just joining us, you have missed a very interesting discussion. But we're just going into more details, so do stay tuned. In the studio here with me is Isinam Dra. Isinam Dra is a mental health advocate, and she's been talking to us about her bipolar journey. Isinam, before we went on the break, you were telling us about how that when it started, your mom panicked because she had a brother who um, used drugs
Yes.
and then is in that condition. And with all you know about bipolar, do you think that it has genetic predispositions?
Yeah. So when you do your research, you will see that they will tell you that there's no like exact cause for bipolar disorder. When you also research about other mental health conditions, they will tell you that they do not know the exact cause for the condition, but all they can tell you is that there are some genetic and biological factors. Sorry, genetic and environmental factors. So genetic means that certain conditions, maybe like cancer, certain families.
Really true.
So bipolar disorder like this, there are certain families that there's certain members of the family are more predisposed to it. But for example, if their environment is supportive, maybe they have good friends, good family, good church, they do not have things that trigger their condition. They may be having that genetic predisposition in them, but the sickness will not manifest. Do you get it? Then when you have environmental factors, so I was talking about how sometimes good and then tragic events can trigger the condition. So environmental factors, there are many. For example, change of environment, maybe somebody you really, really loved, you lose them, loss, grief. They are different. Sometimes good things like your baby promotion, the promotion you've always wanted, now you get it, and it's highly stressful. The stress alone can trigger the condition. So there's no exact known cause. So everybody, when you are diagnosed with your condition, you will have to dig into maybe your past or maybe things around you and see and find out, oh, so maybe this is what may have triggered my condition, or maybe these are the stresses and this is the trigger. Then you'll be able to put the two together and say, oh, maybe because of this, this is why I developed this condition.
Okay, so talking about digging into your past, let's dig into your past a little. Before the broken heart or that heartbreak, looking back, do you think that there might have been any such occasion where you felt a manic episode or a depressive episode, only that you didn't even know what that was until then, or you don't think there was ever anything like that?
I don't think I was ever manic growing up. So from 0 to 21, I think I was, so from 0 to 20, I was fine. It's 21 that I was diagnosed, 21
Okay.
to now that I am 28. So the only time that maybe I think I was depressed was maybe in senior high school. I had a throat infection and I was just sleeping the whole time at the infirmary. A friend recently told me that she thinks maybe that time I was depressed. But I'm like, no, I don't think so. I think I was just sick. So I had a very happy childhood. When I look at my parents did so well. They provided for me and my brother. They were there through like our maybe speech and prize giving day, those kind of things. They were there for us all the time. Just that I had my own like mental issues. When I say mental, like I had inferiority complex, very serious inferiority complex, low self-esteem. I thought I was the ugliest person in the world. I thought I was not intelligent enough. And I wasn't really verbalizing these things with anybody. So whatever negative thoughts come into my mind, I accept them. And sometimes when events happen, I think that, oh, that's a confirmation of what is happening. So I remember when we were in senior high school, we used to go for intercore. So when we go for intercore, the boys from the other senior high schools, I'll see that they are talking to my friends. And if you see like a guy talking to me, it means maybe I know him from JHS or primary. So I was like, oh, okay. Then it's true because that interco, I went for the 4 years. I was in senior high school, so I was like, nah, this thing is really true. Like, I'm not pretty enough, I'm not attractive. And I remember when I was in primary, I used to have like acne, and later I had chicken pox. Those times I wasn't really doing any skincare routine. So I'll look at my face and be like, why is it that all my friends, their faces are smooth? And when it comes to like grades, I was doing well, but I don't know why I don't know that I felt I wanted to be like like how do I call it? Shakiola, like that. I was doing very well, but I wasn't verbalizing these things. I would just keep them to myself. I could have shared them with my parents and they would have helped me out, but I wasn't telling them anything. And they too, they had very intense careers. Like my father was a journalist, my mother was a banker. I would say that because of their careers, they were busy. But if I had gone to share something like this with them, they would have been there for me. And I had aunties who were at home with us. I could have told them, but I don't know what I was thinking that time. So that kind of stress and pressure, and going to a cyto school, they'll be caning you when you're late, all those kinds of things. I think they put a lot of stress on me. And then entering that relationship was the trigger. Building my world around this person, mentally buying our future, the wedding gown, the house, everything. I didn't know at that time the importance of self-validation, affirmation. I just thought like those things, they just come naturally. I do not have to put in the work. So that kind of lifestyle sets me up like for disaster. I always say that if I had known, I would have learned not to worry or be anxious. I was so worried about my future. Like it was a serious, like it was really chronic. Like I believed in the word of God, but when it came to my future, I felt like no, this one is, I have to do everything myself. Otherwise, I will never be happy. I was always worried. Yeah.
I mean, she said so many things, and I'm just looking back uh on my teen years as well, and I'm just wondering like how does one come out of something like that? But I like what you said about affirmation. So yes, you could have had all the love and attention from your parents, or like you said, they're very busy career people. So even if you had issues, nobody knows because it's internal.
Yes.
But then what do you do as a person? You need to look into the mirror yourself and tell yourself, I am worthy, I am this, I am pretty. If you hear a voice that says you're not pretty, shut it down.
Yes.
Shut it down because it was all in her mind. I mean, look at her. It's amazing what we do with ourselves, and then years down the line, it actually began to manifest.
Yes, I always say that we all have mental health. Once you have a brain, you have mental health. So everybody's mental health is like a clean white sheet of paper. When you start worrying, you start getting anxious, it's like crumpling that piece of paper, and then one day the doctor will tell you, oh, your paper is so crumpled, you need medication to iron out everything. So before you get to that level, my doctor always says, it's only in Nigerian movies that you see someone driving and all of a sudden they stop the car and they get out of the car. They've lost their mind. No, it takes time before somebody actually ends up on the street. So you can't say that, oh, the person was just there, bah, they lost their mind. No, it takes time. I believe strongly if I didn't have the kind of support from my parents, my family, my friends, I could have also been on the streets. It was just a matter of time. But by God's grace, things were different for me. So I count it as a blessing and a privilege. When I see the people on the streets, I don't see it like, oh, these people. I always see them like,
It could have been,
have been me. Yeah. So if you are well and you are able-bodied, you shouldn't see people on the streets or people with disabilities and think, oh, these people are different. Those sometimes people who are born without disabilities, they were able-bodied when they were at home or they stepped out. They came back with a disability. So you shouldn't discriminate or stigmatize against people like that.
Stigmatization is real. We will talk about that. you know the things you're saying, they are so everyday things. Like I'm
Yes.
saying, a lot of teenagers, when you get into that teenage phase, you go through a lot, and sometimes your parents don't even understand you, and it can get to that point. But so, what are some of the early signs to know that okay, I'm thinking I am going borderline? You know, how do you know, or is there a way you can, what are some of the signs you can tell us today so that okay, when my sister or my brother or somebody's doing, you can just say, I think that you can have this disorder, maybe we should go check it out.
Okay. So as we know, I told you bipolar disorder. You said a pole.
Yeah.
So we have like that pole in the middle. I wouldn't like to call it normal, but
Okay.
let's just call it normal in quotes. When somebody is straying away from the normal, you will know, because you know the person's character, the person's temperament, you understand. So for somebody who is, let's say, a sanguine, the person becomes overly like depressed, self-isolated, you will know that
There's
something
something
is
off.
wrong.
Yeah.
But if the person is a phlegmatic and the person is maybe very quiet, you just take it as that person's character. So the only way you can know is by communication, having an open conversation, getting to know what is in the person's mind, because you cannot always read like body language and facial expressions to know what is going on with someone. Sometimes you need to come down to a person's level to get to know what's going on with them. And also, if you cannot do it yourself, you have to develop a strategy. You have to find a way, because every human being, like we are social beings, we thrive on communication, having people around. Some people say, me they mean penipa. Everybody likes people. Like we want to have that kind of sense of belonging to someone. So you have to definitely find a way. Everybody, if you find a strategy and a way, sometimes people don't like to be like, someone is heavily depressed, then your first opening statement is, I know you are depressed. No, you have just shut the person down. Maybe you have to take the person out. And when I say out, I'm not saying you should take the person to some expensive restaurant. Maybe even going to the beach, just sitting down on the sand, just chatting, talking. Sometimes you also have to open up about yourself. Something that, so it's about vulnerability, something that on a regular you wouldn't
tell anybody.
or something that you too, when you were at that person's level, you went through. You can open up. People like to open up with to people who they know they can resonate with, and then you share. And you also have to ensure confidentiality, making sure that whatever you are discussing with
You
this
can
person,
trust this person.
yes, you can trust them, and you will not take the information out or use that information against that person, or go and share it with the person's parents or family. You have to really, really be careful, because if someone has a bad experience with you breaking confidentiality, I can assure you they will not trust anybody again, and that will also worsen the situation.
So I saw in one of your interviews that you said one out of four
Yes,
people.
will experience a mental health condition in their lifetime, according to the World Health Organization.
That
WHO.
is interesting.
Yes.
Do you believe it?
Yeah, I believe it. It's not
Why?
a curse. I always say it's not a curse because life is hard. Generally, life is hard. People who have all the things, like they have money, they have power, they have wealth, fame, they also go through problems.
They do.
So it's not about having like a privileged life, no, or belonging to a particular race or sexual orientation or gender or religion that sets you apart. Whatever category you belong to, you will go through stuff. Even now I heard sometimes when I hear preschool children are taking like exams, it's really funny for me because it's a stress at their level. It's a stressor. What's the stressor? They like playing a lot. Now they have to actually sit down, focus and learn. Every level and in stressor. There was a time, I don't know if your school they were caning you, but there was a time when they were caning us. Now nobody is caning us, but we have things to deal with, things to think about, responsibilities. So at every level, there are stresses you cannot avoid. You cannot avoid, no matter how much you are you don't want to think about them. You have your own stresses. To make money, it's also a stressor.
Oh,
You have
yeah.
to do things that you
normally wouldn't want to do.
exercise energy. So because of all these things, if you take 4 people, every 4 people, one of them will experience a mental health
That
condition.
is so scary.
Yeah, and you see, the conditions, some are, should I call it, temporary. Some people, so I have a friend who went through anxiety for a period in her life. She was put on medication. Now she's fine. She doesn't take the
What
medication.
factors accounted for that?
Her
Was that
story,
also a trigger?
her story is a little bit different from mine, but it started off as having panic attacks. You see, so she will, even in church, or like she's in the car with people and have panic attacks. So she will realize maybe her stomach is paining her, having difficulty breathing, feeling like you are suffocating, sweating, all those kinds of things. So after a period of time, you should know that there's something really, really wrong, and you need to go and get it checked. So it's different for everybody. So when they say you experience a mental health condition lifetime, it doesn't mean that you have a permanent. Sometimes you just go through something. So for example, someone goes through grief and loss. We are all crying after maybe 6 months. People are getting but you are still crying. You are even keeping the funeral book under your pillow. You are thinking, you go to the cemetery, you sit there, you are there for you don't even want to leave. That's where you want to be, or you want to die. Some of those things, then we know you are going off. If we do not go and, let's say, see a mental health professional, you could develop a mental health condition.
Is bipolar affective disorder a sickness?
Yes, it's a mental illness. When I say mental illness, mental health condition, it's all the same thing, but it's chronic. Chronic in the sense that you need medications to bring down and manage the symptoms.
Without, this is like a diabetes treatment or blood pressure.
Yes,
you're always managing it. Is it an expensive?
Yes, it's expensive. It's an expensive condition in the sense that the medications are not on the, almost all of them, most of them are not on the health insurance scheme. So a condition like these mental health conditions, they prevent people from sometimes working, living like a life that they could make money. It prevents them. So where are they going to get the money from to be, you see, to be able to afford this kind of medication? And it's not like, because it's chronic, as you're taking the medication, doesn't mean that all of a sudden then it's cured. Like you were saying, the diabetes, and you may have to take it for years. Some people months, some people, it's different for everybody. I know people who started with medication, now they are off, but they are still going for therapy, different types of therapy, to be able to live a very sound, good life like everybody else. So it's not cheap, it's very expensive. I'm not going to lie.
You see why you should be watching us and be listening to us. This is great information you wouldn't have known. But why is this necessary? Why is it important for people to know about this?
It's important for people to know because, like we said, 1 in 4 people experience a mental health condition. I always say that I wish mental health was a subject in school, non-scoring, like PE and all that, so that people will be encouraged to study it. Not just at maybe university, maybe primary, preschool, sing songs about mental health. Because when I was depressed, I didn't even know I was depressed. I didn't even think I should go to the counseling center in my school. I just thought it was a phase. And people around me too couldn't recognize that these were symptoms of depression. I remember one time I went for a presentation on mental health, and then the person speaking listed about 12 symptoms of depression. And I realized that everything that I was going through, if I had had this kind of information, I would have immediately known I was depressed. So it's important for people to know, be aware. When you are aware, then less likely you stigmatize or discriminate against people who have these conditions. And you never know when it will be you or your family member or your friend. I have people reach out to me all the time that, oh, my friend is going through my, and I said that I wish that people realize that these are real things happening to people. Me, my family wouldn't have known so much about mental health if it didn't happen to
Exactly.
me. When you go to the hospital right now, the psychiatric units, you meet people there. It's not a place that once in a while they get clients. People come every day. So it's more common than we think it is.
Yes,
It is very, very common. It's not just about the people on the street. It's very important that when you not just watch this show, but when you are done, you go and read about mental health, read about other mental health conditions, be abreast of all these things. Because when you are aware, it's like it gives you empathy. When you meet, like when your friend is going through something, you will be able to
feel
empathize
for them. Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah,
You have the compassion because you
Yeah.
know that it could be you.
yes, yes,
If one out of every four, it is closer than you think.
yeah.
And but you're talking about this everywhere you go. Everybody knows
Yes,
this.
now I can't hide.
You can't hide. You're literally the face of this. Have you ever faced stigmatization?
Yes, stigma is what forced me to go public.
Oh,
Because
wow.
I used to be a mental health champion under a program called Time to Change Global. So I was trained as a mental health advocate until the project ended in 2020. But when the project was ending, because we didn't have funding to continue, they encouraged us to continue shining our light wherever we go. But before all that, before I started shining my lights, I was working somewhere, and then I was fired because I disclosed to a member of management who told other members of management about the mental health condition that I've lived experience with. And this was very shocking to me because already, because of I was a champion, I was going around sharing materials about fighting, like, let's fight against
Creating
stigma,
awareness,
don't
exactly.
stigmatize. I just knew that it wasn't right to treat people that way, but I didn't have first hand like experience. I didn't know, I would say I didn't know the sting of stigma till it happened to me. Because my, like, when I was working for national service, I was treated nicely, so I thought the real world was like that. Everywhere I go, I'll be loved and accepted. I did know stigma was there, but I didn't think it was a real thing that modern day people are still people are still doing it. And these people stigmatized against me, they were educated people. So it's not about being educated. You can be educated but still stigmatized, you see.
Yeah.
So when this happened to me, I'm glad I was a champion at the time, because when I was being trained as a champion, one of the things they told us was no one should be made to feel worthless or isolated because of their mental health condition. And that thing kept on ringing in my head. And I was in a mental health community too. So all these people came around and were supporting me. I'm sure if I didn't have that kind of support, I would have broken down. So I always say that, look, if this thing had happened outside this life of mine, it would have really affected me. So they thought maybe they were doing good to me by letting me go and work somewhere, but it actually really hurts me. It could have hurt my personality, it could have hurt how I perceive myself. I would have been thinking that there's something wrong with me, that is why, or having this condition is a curse, so that is why I got fired. But I'm glad that it didn't, and it's rather motivated me and fueled me to rather make noise about mental health.
Yes. So stigmatizing people with mental health just
Yes.
shows that you don't have any understanding.
And I didn't know my rights too at the time. Now I
You'd
know
have
my
seen
rights.
them, right?
Yes, because the Mental Health Act 2012 says that no one should be sacked from
Yeah.
their employment
It's not.
because of a past mental health condition or a condition,
Current one.
mental health condition they are living with. So sometimes, even knowing your rights, there are friends who have mental health condition, but some of them don't know their rights.
Right.
So it's not enough to read about mental health, you should also know your rights, because the things are there and people are being stigmatized and discriminated because they don't know their rights.
Yeah. And society won't just treat you just because you have a condition. So you should protect yourself by knowing what the law says about it. And men and women, male, female, who is more prone to? Is there any
So
such thing?
when
Is there an age range?
when I hear the word prone, the thing is that more women, I don't know whether I should use the word suffer, but more women experience mental health conditions. I don't know why. But
Wouldn't it be interesting because women are more verbal? We verbalize things. Men are taught to internalize.
Yeah,
You're a
especially
man, be
African
strong,
men.
don't cry,
Yes.
and all of those
Yes,
things. So
yes.
shouldn't it be rather
the other way around? Oh, men experience, I have friends who have mental health conditions. Women experience, there are more women who have mental health conditions than men. Yes, even though maybe it should have been the other way around, but I don't know why. Sometimes people feel we are more emotional and all that. Maybe that's why it happens like that. But more women experience mental health conditions than men. And most of the time, certain mental health conditions, they start manifesting in people's early 20s. There are also conditions that people are people are like born with certain conditions too. There are some that they are there, but people do not realize that it's a condition. So they say, oh, this person, don't mind them. That's how he is. So this person will live with the condition and grow up before they start realizing that all this while, the person that people say is like some way, the person was battling with a mental health condition. So the age ranges, they differ. Some people to later in life. I know someone that later in life, she was in her 50s before she developed bipolar disorder. So I don't say we are all at risk, but no
one out of four?
Yes, don't sit down and say, oh, me there, I've passed that age limit. No, we are all at risk.
Yes, so I understand that treatment means you're managing it for life, but do people ever recover?
Yes.
Can somebody fully recover from
Yes,
bipolar?
so that's why we call it a road to recovery. Every road, there are curves, there are bends, there are potholes, there are so many things on the road. A road is never that perfect.
Straight,
like,
yeah.
So as you're on this road, for some, the road is never ending. For some, so like my friend I told you, she has anxiety. The road has ended for her in terms of medication, but she also has to take care of herself so that she's not
Doesn't go
triggered
back there.
and have a panic attack and all. And now even when she has panic attacks, she knows how to manage it, because during therapy there are exercises that we learn called relaxation therapy. So there are things, people think therapy is like a white people's thing, and they are the ones who need. No, here in Ghana, we all go for. You need to go for therapy. Sometimes people feel there must be something wrong with me before I go for therapy. No, therapy is very, very useful. So it's different. The road to recovery is different for everybody. When I also got diagnosed, I kept on asking my psychologist, do you know anybody who has bipolar disorder, who is no more medication, who is fine and everything? She told me yes, she knows people like that. But when you research online, they will tell you it's a chronic, lifelong condition. I personally want to sign up for the recovered. I don't want it to be lifelong chronic, because one of my tablets, it costs about 4 cedis, and as the prices are increasing, people don't know that one too, the medications too, the price is also increasing, and I take very high dosages of my medication. And that's what works for me. I can't say that because now things are expensive, I can't take that risk myself. I even need to discuss with my doctor. So I'm going according to my treatment plan, and I'm hoping that within a certain number of, I don't know what God wants to do. But I always say that whether I'm on medication or not, or undergoing treatment or not, mental health advocacy holds a very huge place in my heart, and I'll continue doing it for the rest of my life.
Oh, we should all do that, And she just found her purpose,
Yes.
And sometimes it is in adversity that we find that. And so whatever you go through, Just see the make lemonade out of the lemons and don't be bitter because life won't give you what you want. She was telling us about the treatments.
Yes.
4 cities for a drag. Tell
It's
us
just
about
one
some of,
tablet. Yes.
tell us about some of the types of treatments and then
Okay.
yeah.
Sometimes people go through something we call ECT, electroconvulsive therapy, where they pass like electric waves. I'm not sure I'm getting the technical, but I haven't gone through that. But sometimes that is how people get better. And then they have the other ways, which is the therapy, the family therapy. Sometimes it's even important that your family goes with you for the family therapy so that they know how they can support you with the mental health
I was gonna
condition,
go to
and
that.
also how you with the condition can also sometimes see through their lens, because it's a very challenging period for everybody. I know people who have been in denial for years. They still don't want to come out from that denial because they believe that they are well, there's nothing wrong with them, so they are living their life. But that kind of lifestyle, it only makes your condition worsen. So it's like having malaria, you have left it untreated. Malaria can kill at a point, but this one, it will not kill you. But the kind of consequences, the kind of relationships you break, the kind of things people will say about you, sometimes it's very, very heartbreaking. So that's why I started my channel, Mental Health Cortes on YouTube, to create advocacy, because I realized there isn't really, I don't personally know any Ghanaian YouTube channel which focuses on mental health. There are wonderful channels out there, but for mental health with a person with lived experience, sharing the experience and all that, it's not there. When me, I was diagnosed, I was always reading things online about people abroad, but nothing like African.
exactly.
So people need to, because like you said, 1 in 4 people who experience a mental health condition. COVID came. Cases of mental health conditions were rising because people started getting worried,
Exactly.
afraid, and the war and all these things. So whether we like it or not, more people will be diagnosed every year. It's not something I'm happy about, but that's
It's
just how it
reality.
is.
Yeah.
Yes, reality. Yeah.
So tell me about some of the supports. I love how you said that it's good for family to follow you even in treatments.
Yes.
I know with them, if you have an alcoholic addiction, for instance, there's this anonymous group where it's exactly with this disorder as well. Do you have support groups? Again, when you were talking about the stigmatization, you said that there were times where, because you had that community, you remained sane in that confusion.
Yes.
But so, what is support like in all of this? Do you have support groups? How does it work? Is it also expensive, or it's just
Okay, so personally, I know Abena Koko has a support group called Psychosocial Africa. So she brought me on board, and we've done a few physical meetings, but mostly we are on WhatsApp. So when people are experiencing challenges or they want to hear other people's experience, you can come and put your messages there. We also have mental health professionals there. Then there was another support group that I used to facilitate sometimes and go for their meetings. We call it Hey Foundation Africa. So Hey stands for How Are You? So Hey Foundation, they used to also have support group meetings where we do activities and those kind of things. And sometimes to their leaders call and check up on members and all that. It's unfortunate that support groups are not so many and not so common. I know of a certain, someone reached out to me, they are trying to form an online support group where people can pay for a service to see a psychologist, speak to a psychologist or a psychiatrist, and have that community or sense of belonging. Yes. So the thing about joining a support group is that me, like this, from 2015 for about 4 years, I had never seen any Ghanaian who had a mental health condition, like someone I knew personally. When you go to the hospital, you meet people,
them,
but you don't know the reason why they are there. They are not your friends and stuff like that. So I used to feel very alone. I thought, hey, this thing is only me. Me, I'm going to get this condition. I thought I was, but when you start meeting people, and like you can meet someone today who has a condition, and you can talk about so much that,
You connect in
yes, you
amazing
feel
ways.
like you've known this person your whole life, and you meet another person. Sometimes people who have had conditions maybe years longer than you or shorter than you can exchange experiences and help one another in so many ways. I was very happy. I met one lady who didn't have a condition at the time I met her. I used to talk to her and everything. And later on, she developed a condition. I'm so happy about her road to recovery, because those mistakes that I made or she would have made have been eliminated. So support groups are very important, because it teaches. It's like going for like a pop. Like you have some apport that now you have learned,
Yeah,
and you
yeah.
wouldn't make
It
certain
cushions
mistakes.
you.
Yes, so it also makes you have that sense of peace that, oh, if Abena Koko has done it, I can do it. We are all on this journey together, you see. So it's very, very nice to meet other people who have conditions, and you can relate. We all form that small family. Yeah.
She said something very interesting. This lady friend of yours, she didn't have the condition,
Yes.
but she was part of the support group.
She hadn't joined the support group yet. She was someone that saw me on, I think, Facebook, and she sent me a message that she's going through stuff. And I told her, look, let's meet up and talk. So we started talking, and I could tell, me, I don't like to diagnose people, but I could tell that she had been through certain stressful events. And so one time she had an episode, and immediately my number, I think my messages were found, and I'm glad I was a good person. And then they called me, and immediately I directed them to the hospital. This could have gone two ways. She could have ended up at a prayer camp and be chained and be beaten and all that, you see. So
Chained and beaten.
yes, they
You
are
were
doing
chained and
it.
beaten.
Not me. I'm saying they are doing it to other people. Some families believe that these leaders of prayer camps are doing the right thing. Some families too don't know what is going on with their member. They just left the person there. They think, oh, they are rehabilitating the person or casting out that demon that brings these conditions and all that, not knowing that they are rather leaving their family member or friend at the mercy of these people, and they will not recover. Imagine if, let's say, I have depression and you are beating me, you are also starving me too, you are not giving me food, I will definitely not recover anytime soon. And I always say, when people ask me about this thing about faith and mental health, I merge my faith with my mental. When I'm taking my medication, I always say, Father, I change this medicine to the precious blood of Jesus. Even when you look at the story of the madman of Gadara, he was healed by Jesus. So I'm not against that kind of thing. And that same man who was healed, he stayed and then he preached to about
Yeah,
10
he
towns.
started now.
Yes.
He said stay and
Yes.
then go, and then he became an evangelist.
Yes.
So sometimes even this advocacy you're doing now, it could turn into a ministry later on when God finalizes it.
Yes.
We don't know. So we don't mean that everybody is chained and starved and
Yes.
killed.
Yes.
No. But
Some-
what the point
some
I wanted
prayer
to make
camps.
really was that this lady reached out. You've seen her. She's here. She's telling her story. She's available. You can reach her. She has a YouTube channel. If you see people going through stuff, be a friend. Don't wait till it's your brother, your sister, your mother before you reach out. It's very important. And so, on that note, we will end this episode. And I hope you learned so much. I want to see your feedback. Send us letters, questions, suggestions, and let's know what else you want to know about this topic and many others. Thank you so much for joining. Thank you so much for being here.
You're welcome.
And we hope to see you again soon.
I hope to be back.
Awesome. And it's bye for now.
Bye.